It is January 6th, 2.0. Let's try this again, shall we? Maybe we'll get the outcome they want. Listen, I got to be honest with you. I feel horrible. Just awful. Like, I know I look cheery and exciting, and I don't. Now that I'm looking at myself, I look as bad as I feel. I don't know what happened. I got hit with some kind of horrible weapon of mass destruction, some kind of Chinese virus. I don't know if it's Chinese or what. I don't know what nationality the virus is, but I'll be honest with you. I wanted to pop on. I don't think I'm going to make it that long today, but it's a very important day in our nation's history. It's January 6th, 2.0, and yeah, I do. I know exactly how Kamala Harris's liver feels. I know how Kamala is going to feel when she has to certify those ballots for President Donald Trump here in just a minute. But it is a crazy day for a couple of reasons. First of all, Donald Trump gets certified today. We're excited about that. There's still the lingering media and the left-wing narrative about what happened on January 6th, 2020. Joe Biden's out there giving, medals, like the highest civilian honor you can get to people who aren't even, citizens of our country and who are just the worst, most despicable people in the entire world. Also, in addition to that, check this out. Big news internationally, because I almost said Pierre Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, who is not Pierre Trudeau, but is related. Justin Trudeau just announced that he is going to be resigning his position as prime minister. Now, this is a win for not just Canada, but also Donald Trump. And I want you to think about how we talk about Donald Trump, a lot, because he's the number one most popular subject in the world. But also, Donald Trump has done something here effectively. He's not only handpicked his own leadership for his own cabinet, but he's also now handpicking leadership for other countries. He's like Donald Trump. He picked JD Vance. He's like, all right, JD, you're going to be my VP. And JD's like, what's up? And then he picked Pete Hegseth and a bunch of other people, Pam Bondi, RFK Jr. He's like, yeah, you can come on board. I don't care. And all those things happened. And then he looked around and goes, you know what? I don't really like that Canadian leader a lot, that Trudeau guy. There's something about him that's just weird. So now what he's done is he's figured out a way to get rid of world leaders he doesn't like, starting with Justin Trudeau. And the way he did it was by imposing or threatening, not even imposing because he's not even president yet, threatening to impose a 25% tariff on goods and services. Pardon me while I get a tissue, which I will be doing. I have my tea. I got my tea here with honey and lemon. I got this soup. It's like chicken noodle soup. And then I got tissues and water, all kinds. It's going to be, like I said, it's not going to be a long podcast. It's going to be a short podcast today. But anyway, so 25% tariff on all the goods coming in from Canada. That was the first thing he did. Then he said, why don't you become the 51st state? Then he said, you know what? You could become governor. And he didn't stop there. He then continued to refer to Canada as the 51st state and continued to refer to Justin Trudeau as the governor of the 51st state. And I kid you not, because I have relatives in Canada. In fact, the majority of my relatives, my blood relatives, are still in Canada. I don't know why. A couple of us escaped, but some of them stayed there. And one of them, I found out over the weekend, I was talking to someone who talked to one of my relatives, apparently was very distraught with the way that President Donald Trump had been treating Justin Trudeau. They didn't like the idea that Donald Trump was disrespectful to the Canadian Prime Minister, let alone the fact that he's been disrespectful to every citizen of Canada for like the last 8 years. But that's neither here nor there. And she was all upset. She's like, I can't believe Donald Trump called this the 51st state. I can't believe that Donald Trump called him governor. He's so rude to Trudeau. And now the good news is Donald Trump won't be rude to Trudeau anymore because Trudeau's he's inconsequential at this point. In fact, you know what? I didn't have time. Here's the thing. I was laying in bed for like most of the morning. And then I was like, all right, I should probably get up and shower. So I got up to shower. I didn't have a lot of time to pull audio or clips or things like that. But here I do have, we can watch. Yeah, here it is. I have it on my X feed. My X feed is basically my show. So if you ever miss the show or whatever, just go on my X feed because I just pull stuff and retweet and share. And then I just use those. I use those as clips for this podcast. Anyway, here it is. Here is Justin Trudeau earlier today, quitting.
Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
He's had a mouthful there. A couple things, by the way. I feel bad for his family because they had to listen to him drone on all over the holiday break. He's like, I took the whole and you know, he's one of these guys. He's one of these emo guys. You can tell just by looking at him. You can tell this is an emo guy. When he has a decision to make, or when he's struggling with something, or when he feels he's lost, you know, that's all he's going to talk about. And and it probably ruined everybody's Christmas vacation. I feel bad for his wife and his kids because they probably just wanted to open presents. And he was just probably sitting there going, I have such a difficult decision to make. Kids, enjoy Christmas while you can, but I will probably have to resign my position as party leader. And also, I mean, it's shocking to me. Look, he's in Canada. He's like 800 miles north of Washington, D.C., and there's no snow on the ground. If you look at any of the pictures from Washington, D.C., man, they are just pummeled. They got snow everywhere. They're like trudging to work today at the Capitol building to go and
holidays.
To go and certify the election in like feet of snow, and that's something that, you know, I'm not sad for. I mean, you know, that's your job. You got to go. So that's Justin Trudeau. He's out and he's gone, and it appears. And Canadian politics is weird. I don't want to bore you with it because it's boring and it's so inconsequential because Canada's such an inconsequential country. But basically, here's what happens. In Canada, it's modeled after the British system. So you don't have like two parties that just elect a president and then the president's like, all right, I'm going to pick a. You basically vote for a party. And then once you've selected the party that's going to be in power, the party gets together and says, okay, here's who's going to be prime minister. And yes, you kind of know going into it. So like, for example, if we had a similar ridiculous system here in the United States of America, you would go to the polls and you would say, okay, the ruling party should be the Republican Party, or the ruling party should be the Democrat Party. And then once that party was in power, they would select whoever was going to lead them. And sometimes you can have a change in leadership, but before you even have, without having an election. But basically, they would let you know, hey, we're leaning toward Donald Trump, by the way. So if you vote for Republicans, that's probably going to be our guy. That's how it works. And so now they're going to have this ridiculous election. Pierre Poilievre probably will be, I believe, from the Conservative Party. He'll probably be the prime minister. He's all right, I guess. He's not Justin Trudeau, so I guess that's the best thing for Canada. And for no word on whether or not he'll want to be governor of the 51st state or not. We're going to find that out. We're going to find that out a little later on today. Also, Donald Trump, like I said, the ballots get certified, or the electoral votes rather get certified. All the electors have gone and they voted, and now this is going to be exciting. Here's what's going to happen. I'm probably going to, at like 1 o'clock, whatever, we'll just roll with C-SPAN and we can all watch the vote together, and that'll save me from having to talk and you from having to listen to my subpar voice. But it's going to be exciting because Donald Trump, it's so funny. Donald Trump, there's no crowds, by the way. There's nobody protesting. There's none of that. Everybody has just accepted the fact that Donald Trump's going to be president. There's no permits that have been given out by the District of Columbia. The police haven't been told to expect anybody or any crowds. It seems like and also there's, like I said, 6 inches of snow on the ground. So it's going to be a pretty calm, we believe, day. Much calmer than it was 4 years ago. And what's going to happen is Kamala Harris is going to have to go in there and she's going to have to certify the election results. And she has to, because last time around, you may remember there was some question. Donald Trump was like, Mike Pence, don't do it. And Mike Pence was like, I have to. And Donald Trump was like, you don't have to. And then he was like, but the lawyers. And then Donald Trump was like, no, listen to these lawyers. And it was all like a whole back and forth. And then Mike Pence went in there. He's like, I'm sorry, I have to go with my constitutional duty, yada, yada, yada. And then, so what happened was, after that, the Democrats, think about this. This is the way the Democrat mind works. They tell Mike Pence, you only have ceremonial power to certify these electors. You don't have any real power. If you don't certify the electors, it doesn't matter. It's only ceremonial. And Mike Pence goes, all right, then I'll just certify the electors because that's my job and it's my role. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says I shouldn't do it or I can't do it. And so Mike Pence does it. And then immediately afterward, when Joe Biden and the Democrats get in office, what do? They rewrite the whole electoral college law so that they verify. They basically said, we want to clarify that there is no actual power here and that the vice president's ceremonial certification is just that, ceremonial, and holds no weight. So the Democrats say one thing, and then after they win, they go back and they make that thing that they said actually happen. So you tell me, were they lying beforehand or were they just misinformed? Were they just trying to hedge their bets? Were they trying to cover their butts for the next time around? Anyway, so now the irony is the very first vice president to certify an election under these new much tighter guidelines that basically state this is a ceremonial power, and you have no actual real governmental or legislative power when you do this, is Kamala Harris doing it for Donald Trump, which I think is, I mean, the irony of that is it's just fantastic. It's just poetic justice at its finest. Kamala Harris, by the way, she did something weird. I mean, she does a lot of weird things. She released a video today, and I'm going to play it for you because I posted it on X. She released a video today telling America that she was planning to do her job, which is it. We just assumed, I guess you can't assume with Democrats that they're going to do their job. So here's Kamala Harris. This is the video she released saying, "Don't worry, America, I will do my job."
The peaceful transfer of power is one of the most fundamental principles of American democracy. As much as any other principle, it is what distinguishes our system of government from monarchy or tyranny. Today at the United States Capitol, I will perform my constitutional duty as Vice President of the United States to certify the results of the 2024 election. This duty is a sacred obligation, one I will uphold, guided by love of country, loyalty to our Constitution, and my unwavering faith in the American people. As we have seen, our democracy can be fragile. And it is up to then each one of us to stand up for our most cherished principles and to make sure that in America, our government always remains of the people, by the people, and for the people. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
All right, now clearly she was reading off a teleprompter because she didn't mess up the words like she did to the Pledge of Allegiance, which I didn't even get a chance to share that because it happened after the show. But Kamala Harris, I think I have it. She messed up the words to the Pledge of Allegiance last week, and she just took out the word flag. And so this time around, when she was doing the whole of the people, by the people, for the people, they made sure that she did it off a teleprompter. I have to imagine she did a lot of takes too, and it was pretty good for a drunk. I mean, I don't know that she's drunk now, but anyway, listen to this. Was Kamala Harris last week messing up the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of
Wow, maybe that's why she didn't win the election. Maybe she didn't win the election because she didn't know the basic pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And look, and we know that the Democrats, they don't like the flag. They're not big fans of the flag. They believe that the flag represents Donald Trump. They believe that the flag represents patriotism and NASCAR and country music and guns and MAGA and all that. You know what? It's really interesting because we live in a society now. And this isn't me talking. This is a proven fact. There's an article about this. We live in a society now where if you have an American flag outside your home waving, a flag of the country that you live in, if you have an American flag outside your home, your neighbors, passersby, people, the government, they're just going to assume that you are a Republican. They're going to assume that you are MAGA. They're going to assume that you voted for Donald Trump. I mean, probably a safe assumption. But that's what it is. The United States, the flag of the United States of America has no longer become just a flag of the United States of America. It's become a flag of the party that truly believes in and is loyal to and honors and fights to protect the United States of America. And that's probably why she That's probably why she forgot to pledge allegiance to it.
To pledge allegiance to the United States.
Oh man, I'll tell you, trust me, it sucks to be mic'd all the time. It sucks. I've been working around microphones my entire life. Well, not my entire life, but since I was like 20. I've worked in a room with microphones, and sometimes they're on and sometimes they're not, and sometimes someone's listening to you and sometimes whatever. And sometimes they leave the microphone right up there and you turn around and it is just it's a difficult row to hoe. And so when you forget and that happens to me sometimes, we'll be in, I'll admit it, I'll be in church and we'll be doing the Lord's Prayer, and I'll start with the Lord's Prayer and I'll just zone out, or maybe I had a late night or something and I mess up. I go, Our Father who art in heaven, your name, hallowed, and then everyone looks at me because I have a loud voice. They think I'm a sinner. But I mean, that's just bad news. That's just bad news for Kamala Harris because she was mic'd up and she's the Vice President of the United States of America. Oh, this was so. All right. So another thing that happened that's this is totally a selfish thing. It's just something I'm reporting on myself, which I should never do. But when we watched on Friday, we all watched together. We got together and we watched Mike Johnson become Speaker of the House of Representatives. It was a very exciting day. And as soon as the show ended, and I said, okay, we're going to go to a second ballot, Donald Trump got on the phone, or Susie Wiles got on the phone, or they both got on, who knows? And so what happened was on Friday, if you were listening to the show, we ended it right at the end of the first ballot. And at that point, Mike Johnson was short. I mean, I'm not just saying he's short. He's like 5'6". He's a short guy. But he was short the number of ballots needed to retain his speakership. Keith Self voted for Byron Donalds from Texas's 3rd District. Thomas Massey voted for Tom Emmer. And Ralph Norman voted for Jim Jordan. Now, Jim Jordan has already said, I don't want to vote. By the way, these three guys, Emmer, Donalds, and Jordan, all voted for Johnson. So these are just ridiculous. These are just dumb things. Thomas Massey, we knew was going to vote. And Thomas Massey was looking for some attention. And he knew that they could lose one vote. And he grabbed onto that pretty early. So good for him. But Keith Self and Ralph Norman, I don't know what those dudes were thinking. They just threw these votes out there. They threw a ratchet in the system. And Susie Wiles got on the phone with Marjorie Taylor Greene and said, you go tell those, I'm paraphrasing here. You go tell those dudes right now they have to change their vote because we need to win on the first ballot. And I guess they went and talked to Speaker Johnson and they went and talked to Donald Trump. And I'm pretty sure they got the message because they walked right back into the Capitol and they said, we change our minds. We're changing our votes. We're no longer voting for Donalds and Jordan. We're voting for Johnson. And so Mike Johnson became Speaker of the House of Representatives on the first ballot, which is great news because that's what you need. You need some kind of solidified Republican base. But while we were looking at everything, what reminded me of the good Congress people and the bad Congress people and the people that were there just for themselves and the people that weren't, like Thomas Massey. I know people like him in Kentucky. I know he's a very conservative guy. What he did on Friday, I feel like was just a way to grab some attention. I know his wife died. That's very sad. But I feel like he was just trying to grab some attention for himself. And it worked because now everyone knows who Thomas Massey is. And they may not have known that beforehand. But then I was going back through and I saw my good friend, Representative John Rutherford from Florida's 5th District, my district. And he was there and he was looking his John Rutherford self. And it just annoyed me that he's still in Congress. So I revitalized my candidacy or my discussion about a potential candidacy 2 years from now in 2026 to either primary John Rutherford if he's running again or run for his seat should he choose to retire. A part of me believes because he's so old that he might retire. And also he's already getting his pension. He's going to get 80% of his congressional pension. He's going to get free health care for the rest of his life. He's going to be fine for the rest of his life. So I feel like maybe now is a good time for him to step back, but you never know. He's got great grandchildren. Do you know that? John Rutherford has great grandchildren, and so he might want to spend some time with them at the beach. I don't know. But he may be like, nah, I'm just going to stick with this best job I've ever had. So I'm making so much money off the stock market, which is true. Just ask Matt Gaetz. I may just stick with it, in which case he'll have to be primaried. So I reignited this fire of this investigation into what it would take to primary John Rutherford. And on Saturday morning, I wrote, if I'm going to primary Representative John Rutherford in 2 years, I'll need one of the following to endorse me. Real Donald Trump, Elon Musk, or Cat Turd 2. Because those are the three most powerful people in American politics right now. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, that particular tweet got retweeted by one Cat Turd. And he said, where is it? Oh, here it is. He wrote, done. which just, I mean, it created, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I've gotten as many new Twitter followers in one day as I did when Kayetriot wrote that he was going to endorse me for congressional seat in District 5 in 2026. That really, I'm going to be honest with you, I've done a lot of things that have gotten me a lot of attention and a lot of followers and whatnot, but having Kayetriot, and that's it, and that like mission accomplished, right? Like I said, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, or Kayetriot. Well, I got Kayetriot, so I think I'm pretty much in. Anyway, that's in 2026, so we have some time, but I wanted to lay the groundwork. And then people started coming out of the woodwork. I got an interview request from a guy who has a podcast. On Thursday, he's like, I'd love to talk to you about your congressional run. And I was like, sure, I got nothing else planned. Hopefully I'll be better by then. I started getting people that wanted to volunteer. They started doing, opposition research for me, which is also very important. And that's the thing, because whenever you start a conversation, people start asking and they go, what's going on? And like somebody wrote, why do we not like John Rutherford? And before I could even answer, this was great. Somebody wrote on there and go, what's wrong with John Rutherford? Why don't we like John Rutherford? Why are we trying to primary John Rutherford? And before I could type my answer, like 3 other people posted his Liberty score from Conservative Review. I didn't even know it was this low. He's got an F. His Liberty score. And a Liberty score, basically what they do is they look at all of the votes that a conservative would, how would conservatives vote on this issue? How would they vote on this bill? Would they send billions of dollars to Ukraine? Probably not. And then they tally up all the votes and they give you a rating. And John Rutherford right now has an F. 53%. That's not even like a 60. That's not even a good F. And so a lot of people are waking up to the fact that, yes, there's a lot of Republicans in Congress, but they may be Republicans in name only. And I'll just tell you this right now, I would just vote no on everything. You'd have to really convince me to vote yes on something. I'd be like, you know what? Does it involve money? No. Does it involve a foreign country? No. I'm just going to vote no on everything. In fact, when they yelled out Mark Kaye, Speaker of the House, who do you vote for? I would just go no. And then everyone would be like, what? And I go, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Johnson. I don't know. But I feel like that's always the safest. That's always the safest bet. If you don't know something for sure, just vote no until you can. That's what I tell people to do with the countless amendments that we have on we have all these amendments on the Florida ballot. I go, if you read it and you don't understand it, just vote no. Because odds are that's the way it usually should be. All right. So like I said, coming up here in just a minute, now they've certified the ballots. They're going to go and they're going to have a joint session of Congress. And in the joint session of Congress, the Senate comes together with the House of Representatives, and there's a lot of meandering, as we saw again on Friday. There's a lot of meandering. They just rumble around. They talk to each other. They shake hands. They take. I don't know what they're doing. They talk about the snow. I imagine there'll be lots of talk about the snow. I imagine lots of folks will be like, "Oh man, that snow today, huh? Woo, that guy is treacherous." So there might be some of that. But anyway, what then happens is they go through and they count all the electoral votes from all of the states, and then Kamala Harris has to certify it. Now, this is typically not a big deal. Like until recently, nobody cared about January 6th. January 6th wasn't even a thing. January 6th was just a day, an electoral day. And what they did was the Congress met, they came together. It was just a check mark on their to-do list right after lunch. Pardon me while I blow. Sorry, I should probably have some like music or something to play. Like some elevator music? I think I do. Oh, there we go. There we go. That'll be my I have to blow my nose music in the future. Anyway, so what happened? Typically they would go to lunch and then they would come back. And then after they would come back, they would be like, all right, what's next? Oh, let's certify these electoral ballots. Oh, okay, cool. And then that's it. They just vote and it would be done. But 4 years ago, in 2020, we all know that Donald Trump said, look, this is the last chance. Donald Trump was like, look, this is the last chance. This is the last chance we have to save this election. This is the last chance we have to make sure that the legal recourses can be followed through, that the judges and all of these court cases we filed can really dig in, that all of that we have that we've exhausted every legal battle we've made against the election in 2020. And if these election results are certified, that's it. So what did Donald Trump do? Donald Trump said, I'm gonna have a rally. Because that's what when in doubt, rally. That's Donald Trump's thing. What would a DJT do? The answer is rally. So he goes, I'm gonna have a rally. I'm gonna invite people to Washington, D.C. I'm gonna put a stage up right outside of the White House. And I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna tell everybody, hey, look, this is it, man. Our country is at stake. Our country it needs your help. Come out to Washington, D.C. And they did. And he goes, now I want you to peacefully and patriotically walk to the Capitol and make your voices heard. And that's what he did. And then people went there and, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Some say they broke in. Some say the doors were open. Some say it was violent. Some say they were walking through the stanchions, the velvet rope. So how violent could it have been? Ashley Babbitt, God rest in peace. May she rest in peace, was shot. The thing. And so now, 4 years later, January 6th has become a big deal. Like nobody would care about this day otherwise. But because Donald Trump made it a last-ditch effort, and because of what happened 4 years ago, and because of all the legislation they put forward since then, it now becomes this big stinking deal. And everyone's going to be watching. We're all going to be glued to C-SPAN, and we're all going to be watching and waiting. And all I want is to hear Kamala Harris say whatever it is she'll probably muck it up. Let's be honest. I mean, if she doesn't even know if she doesn't even know the, what do you call it? The Pledge of Allegiance, then she's not gonna get this one right at all. She's not gonna get this one right at all. But then she's gonna have to go through and she's gonna have to say, I hereby certify these results for Donald J. Trump, the 47th president, blah, blah, blah. And then she's out, and then she's gonna be gone. And we will never probably have to, we'll see her, I guess, at the inauguration. She'll be there standing next to Joe, propping Joe up. She'll be there at the, when J.D. Vance takes the oath, which I believe happens first. If I'm not mistaken, pardon me. I believe that they do the vice president first, God forbid something happen, and then the president, and then there's a parade. And hopefully the snow will be gone by the time I get there. I'm going to be honest with you. Something else that happened over the weekend is that that Joe Biden, man, he's just, there's two ways to go out. The first way to go out would be the classy way, where you say, all right, look, not only did I lose this election, but my own party didn't want me to run. The people in the United States of America didn't want me in power anymore. They didn't want my party in power anymore. They've made a clearly different choice. They've chosen Donald Trump. They've chosen conservatism. They want a stronger border. They want a cheaper gas. They want to drill, baby, drill. The people of the United States of America have told me this is what they want. And you might say to yourself, all right, as an American, as the president, I will honor what the people said. That would be the classy way to go. It's not the way the Bidens do it, though. Joe Biden decided, okay, the people have decided they don't like me. They don't like my politics. They don't like my party. Well, screw all of them. I'm going to give him a big middle finger on the way out the door. How am I going to do that? Well, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to pardon his son, Hunter Biden, something that's never been done before. He's going to pardon Hunter Biden. And that is a big you-know-what to the people in the United States of America who voted for Donald Trump. The other thing he's going to do is he's going to pass all of these drilling bans on offshore drilling before he goes, even though he knows that the majority of the American people voted for cheaper gas, drill, baby, drill. That's one of the tenets of Donald Trump's administration and his policies and his platform that we all voted for. And drill, baby, drill is going to be a thing. Joe Biden's like, you know what? Screw you. You want to drill, baby, drill? See how well you can drill, baby, drill if I get rid of all these bans on the oil drilling. Here's Hugh Hewitt talking about what Donald Trump's plan is for day one now.
Got to get things done. We don't get them done. I see it just came over that Biden has banned all oil and gas drilling across 625 million acres of U.S. coastal territory. It's ridiculous. I'll unban it immediately. I will unban it. I have the right to unban it immediately. What's he doing? Why is he doing it? We have something that nobody else has. I mean, nobody has to the extent we have it, and it'll be more by the time we finish because I'll be able to expand. We're going to expand our country, and it'll be more. We have oil and gas, and whether you manufacture widgets or gadgets or whatever you happen to be doing, some countries have to work very hard to do that. We do too, and we will. But we have oil and gas at a level that nobody else has, and we're going to take advantage of it. And when I see somebody saying he's going to ban 625 million acres, he doesn't know what that is. He doesn't even know what 625 million acres would look like. And we can't let that happen to our country. It's really our greatest economic asset. And we're not going to let that happen to our country.
Yeah. So by the way, Donald Trump sounds like he's got a little something too. Was it me, or did he sound like he had maybe I'm in good company? Maybe if Donald Trump has a cold or some kind of virus or whatever, and I have a virus, maybe that's good luck. Who knows? But he did sound like he was a little hoarse or a little under the weather. Anyway, so that's the other thing that Joe Biden said, I'm going to pardon my son. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to like keep it. I'm going to keep you from getting your cheap gas. I'm going to ban all this drilling. And Donald Trump's like, I'll just unban it. You have the power to ban? Guess what? I have the power of unbanning. It reminds me of that episode from The Office where he was like, shun, unshun, shun, unshun, shun, unshun. If you're an Office fan, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not an Office fan, you have no clue what I'm talking about. But anyway, and then the third thing he did was he started handing out Presidential Medals of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor you can give to anybody. You can give this to anybody. And this is the thing. The problem is it's the highest civilian honor you can give to anybody. The other problem is you can give it to just about anybody. And Joe Biden said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give these Medals of Freedom out to some of the worst people in the entire world, starting with Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Rodham Clinton.
By the way, what is it with all these liberal women wearing red these days? You remember how Jill Biden went to go vote for Joe Biden? She went to go vote for president. She went to go vote for Kamala, but we all pretty much assume she just voted for Joe. Remember, she was wearing that red suit, and we're like, doesn't she know that red is doesn't she know what party she's with? Does she not have what's going on with that? Anyway, that was the first thing. And then Hillary, well, anyway, here she is. Also, the thing that troubles me most about this is that people are giving her a standing ovation, which is weird. Standing ovation, usually you reserve those for people who have performed exceptionally well, above and beyond, people who have done something miraculous or selfless. And I don't think that Hillary Clinton has done anything selfless in her entire life. I think everything she's done has been selfish. Everything this woman has done has been to pad her own pockets or create more power for her and her family, protect her family from their own evil sins. It's really amazing. There's really not one thing I could point to in her decades of service that would amount to being worthy of the highest civilian honor. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see, there's Whitewater, there's Benghazi, there's the Lincoln bedroom scandal. I'm trying to think of any of the positive stuff. No, nothing's really. If there's something that you can think of, maybe put it in the chat and we'll talk about it later. Then there's this George Soros thing, which I'll be honest with you, this to me 100% is just a slap in the face. This is George Soros has donated so much money to so many woke DAs and woke politicians. George Soros has done so much as a foreign, by the way, adversary of the United States of America to use his power and his influence and his pocketbook and all his cash. He's done more than anyone to try to dismantle the ideals of this country from the outside. And the Democrats, because they are just love his money, they have let him do it. They've let him come in. They've let him run elections. They've let him make policy. They've let him become, one of the biggest names in Democrat politics and controlling, all kinds of various things. And not, we're not even going to talk about what he did back in his home country of Austria and in the war and all that kind of stuff. And so George Soros gets a medal from Joe Biden. And of course, he doesn't show up to get it because he's old. And I think probably he'd be arrested. And so his son gets it for him, Alex.
Accepting on behalf of George Soros is Alex Soros.
This is the part.
Presidential Medal of Freedom is.
Yeah, this is the part where they roll through all of these amazing things supposedly George Soros has done for the United States that make him worthy for this honor. Listen.
Awarded to George Soros.
Oh, I didn't get that part. Never mind. That's the end of the clip. That's the end. Anyway, you didn't want to hear it anyway. You didn't want to hear that anyway. So this is Joe Biden on his way out the door, just pooping on the floor. This is the equivalent of Joe Biden pooping on the floor, which, let's face it, as old as he is, he's probably done that too. He did give out some good ones. That's the thing. You can't make them all bad. You got to give out some good ones. So he dragged in Michael J. Fox, who got one. I think we all agree. Marty McFly deserves an award, right? I think it's funny, though, because if you ever watched Family Ties, you know that Alex P. Keaton was a Republican. Not just a Republican, but like a Ronald Reagan Republican. He was one of the most staunch Reagan Republicans that there's ever been in television history, or probably in history. And the fact that Joe Biden gave Alex P. Keaton the Congressional Medal, that just made me giggle. But then again, I grew up in the 80s. Ralph Lauren, speaking of growing up in the 80s, man, Mr. Polo himself. Is it Lauren or Lauren? I always say Lauren, but I think it's Ralph Lauren. I think it's a lot easier than I try to make it. Ralph Lauren, who got the Congressional Medal of Freedom, probably, or the Presidential Medal of Freedom, probably, I would guess, you know why? I'll tell you why. I know exactly why this guy got the medal, because he uses American flags on all of his clothes. And he does all the Olympic stuff. He does the entire wardrobe for all the Olympians. He does the swimsuits. He does the Winter Olympic. He does the parkas. He does all that kind of stuff. And as a result, you know, he uses red, white, and blue a lot. So maybe that's why. Magic Johnson got an award. At first, I was all like, why didn't Magic Johnson get an award? But then I did a little digging, and I found out that Magic Johnson is a minority owner, meaning a small owner, not just because he's not like a black person. He became a black person, not a minority like minority. He owns a small part of the Washington Commanders, the football team that, guess what, wants a new stadium and is looking for Congress to package couple billion into the next spending budget so that they can pay for that. So wouldn't you know it, the Democrats giving out awards to minority owners of the Washington Commanders just when they were trying to pack a whole bunch of money into a spending deal to rebuild a stadium in downtown DC for them. Who else? Denzel Washington, you know, I have no problem with. I know he's probably a Democrat, but he's not like one of those annoying Democrats. So I don't really have. I really think, by the way, Joe Biden thought he was giving the medal to Barack Obama. Look at that. I was looking at this going, Joe Biden's like, I'm giving Barack a medal. He has no clue what he's doing. Has no clue who Denzel is. Joe Biden's just like, oh, Barack, congrats. You've done so much for me. Then he's stabbing in the back. I'm so glad I could do something. I'm so glad I could do something for you too. So anyway, so that was what Joe Biden did. Who else did he? Oh, there was Mitt Romney's dad. It was a posthumous medal for Mitt Romney's dad. And we don't need to see that. All right, so here I'm going to pull up the TV because this is great because I've been talking way too long. And I'm going to pull up C-SPAN because look at that. There it is. I said that I would do it and I did it. And we're going to look at C-SPAN. So here's C-SPAN. What's happening now is the joint session of Congress is about to begin, and you can see that there's some people, and this is what they do. They come in, and like they act like they haven't just seen each other on Friday. Oh my God! I guess some of the senators haven't seen some of the Congress people, and there's Marjorie Taylor Greene and that Tim Burchett high-fiving Marjorie Taylor Greene, and so they're coming in, and yeah, I guess there's some compatriots across the aisle. There's Chuck Schumer hugging some guy. I don't know who that is. He's very thrilled. He's giving a thumbs up. So anyway, there's Adam Schiff, who used to be a representative but is now a senator. So they're all going to come in, and in this joint session, they are going to certify the election. Oh, look, there's Mike Johnson and Kamala Harris, the Speaker of the House, barely, and the Vice President, barely. And look, they're the same height. That's so great. So Mike Johnson and Kamala Harris will say she is, of course, the president of the Senate as vice president, which J.D. Vance will be soon. And Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House. So we'll watch this a little bit when it starts because this should be kind of interesting. And that will also keep me from having to talk. I imagine what they're going to do is they're going to gavel them in. Everyone's going to take their seat. And I don't know. I don't remember exactly how it works. I know that they have to roll through every vote. So they have like a goblet of fire. Oh, there's Josh Hawley. That's good. They have like the goblet of fire, and they open up the goblet of fire, and then, you know, it says, you know, Harry Potter. No. And then they just pull out the electoral votes, and I think they read who the electors voted for one by one. And then when it's all done, they vote. Now, in the past, there have been people who have complained. Hillary Clinton was one of them. But hopefully that won't happen here. Let Let me just, I'm going to pull up a large screen version of this too so you can really enjoy it. Hang on one second. I need to do a little finagling here. Hang on, let me, as you can tell, I told you I wasn't prepared for this because I was lying on my butt right before this. Hold on, let me just duplicate this. All right, there we go. Perfect. All right, I'm going to watch. I'm going to go. And then look, you're going to see, look at that. The magic of, well, whatever we're calling this. And then if I go back to here, look at that. Bada bing, bada boom. So now you can hear me in the background. You won't see me blowing my nose. I'll sit here, I'll drink some tea. And I'll say, oh, you know what? I'm going to do something a little different, actually, now that I think about it. I'm going to, oh, C-SPAN's talking now. Oh.
Be an eyewitness to the history that is unfolding there.
Hang on, I'm going to do this differently. Watch this.
College vote is finished and certified. We'll come back to our studio for a time with Kaye and take your calls about the events that have transpired.
They're going to take our calls later. Should we call C-SPAN? Does anybody actually call C-SPAN? I guess they do. All right, I'm going to do it this way. This way is going to be much better. Because then, you know what we can do? We can, like, I can pull in some comments. If you'd like to make a comment, and it doesn't have to be a super chat. I would love for it to be a super chat, but it doesn't have to be a super chat. If you want to make a comment, what I'll do is I'll pull some comments in the bottom here. For example, let's see what. Oh, yeah, there's Ruth. Okay, so Ruth commented about Denzel. Denzel accepted an award from an evil person. Well, I guess that's true. We'll just cover up the C-SPAN logo with your comment. There we go. That's good. All right, let's see what else we got. See, that's such a funny comment. I hate forced small talk. This is the funniest thing about these people. These people love it. Oh, oops. I just messed something up. There we go. These people love forced small talk. That's their thing. This is their thing. They're like, small talk. Woohoo. Yay. Man, I love it. Do you want to hear my voice? Because I love when, I know that people love to hear my voice. That's what these people are thinking right now. Oh, look, there's Arkansas. They're showing us the electoral ballots. Look at that. Isn't that weird how it's just handwritten? It's like they threw it in a manila envelope and they wrote Arkansas on it with a pen, and they threw it in the box. I would have thought they would have had some kind of, you know, gold leaf. I would have thought they would have made it a little bit more. I would have made it a little bit more ceremonial, but that's just me. You know, really do it up a little bit. Let me do this. I'm saying, yes, I know it's Arkansas. Don't some people call it Arkansas? Also, people make fun of Florida all the time. Don't come at me with the whole no one makes fun of where you live. You ever heard of Florida, man? I probably live in the state that gets made the most fun of. I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, Arkansas. I won't say Arkansas anymore. Misty, just for you. All right, I see JD Vance. JD Vance is there. Woohoo! Thank you, CA Smirk. I appreciate that very much. Thanks for the super chat. Magic got medal because he begged for Camel votes. Yeah, that's probably true. All those people probably were out there begging for Kamala's. Oh, they're gaveling. They're gaveling.
The House come to order.
She's speaking.
Mr. Speaker and members of Congress, pursuant to the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Senate and House of Representatives are meeting in joint session to verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States. After ascertainment has been had that the certificates are authentic and correct in form, the tellers will count and make a list of the votes cast by the electors of the several states. The tellers on the part of the two houses will take their places at the clerk's desk.
Hopefully she doesn't have to do the Pledge of Allegiance again. Hopefully they don't have to do the hopefully they don't do the Pledge of Allegiance again, because that would be really embarrassing if she messed it up again 2 days in a row. But all right, so they gavelled everybody in. They said, here's what we're gonna do. They read the rules from the Constitution. They said the tellers are gonna do this kind of thing, and then now she turned off her microphone, which was smart. Or C-SPAN, someone turned off her microphone, which was smart, because you never know what she's gonna say.
Action. Without objection, the tellers will dispense with reading formal portions of the certificates. After ascertaining that the certificates are regular in form and authentic, the tellers will announce the votes cast by the electors for each state, beginning with Alabama. Senator Fisher.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Alabama seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 9 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 9 votes for vice president.
Yay. Yay, Alabama. Next up, Alaska. How many electoral votes did Donald Trump get? I don't know. Alaska.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Alaska seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, and then Arkansas. Sorry. Arizona, Arkansas.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Arizona seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Where are all the Kamala votes? Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California. She'll be next.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Arkansas seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
All right, so Kamala's going to get a bunch here. They'll applaud. I'm sure the Democrats will all be like, yeah, oh my God, they're wearing the same clothes.
The certificate of the electoral vote
They're wearing
of
the same
state
outfits.
of California seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California
They couldn't coordinate better?
received 54 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 54 votes for vice president.
Oh, I guess they didn't get as much applause as I thought they would.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Colorado seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Sorry. I forgot that one for California. I'll be better next time.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Connecticut seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 7 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 7 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Delaware seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the District of Columbia seems to be irregular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
Does it sound like to anyone else that they say it's inauthentic? They say it's authentic, but it sounds like inauthentic.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Florida seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 30 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 30 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Georgia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 16 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 16 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Hawaii seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Cross Hawaii off my desired destinations list.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Idaho seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Oh, why is he sitting next to him? Wow, Bill Cassidy.
Madam President,
Gross.
the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Illinois seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 19 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 19 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Indiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Iowa seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Kansas seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Kentucky seems to be regular in form and authentic, and appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Louisiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Maine seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 1 vote for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 1 vote for vice president.
All right, so this is for the 1 vote, and this is for the 3. Nobody knows how to react. They're like, are you applauding? What are you doing?
Madam President.
J.D. Vance is like, I'm applauding for myself.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Maryland seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 11 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Michigan seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 15 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 15 votes for vice president. Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Minnesota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Mississippi seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Missouri seems to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 10 votes for vice president.
Joe, they're calling her Madam President because she's the president of the Senate. The vice president, so they're saying Madam President.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Montana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Yeah, it's not that she's president of the United States, president of the Senate.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nebraska seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president.
No problem,
and
Joe.
Kamala Harris of the state of California received 1 vote for president. And J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president. And Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 1 vote for vice president.
Those Nebraska Maine votes, they always throw me off. So this is for Trump and Vance. This is for Kamala and the other guy. There you go.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nevada seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Hampshire seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
By the way, if it were me, I would have shown up dressed as the QAnon shaman.
Madam President,
I would have walked in.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Jersey seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 14 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 14 votes for vice president.
Yeah. I would have definitely played off of January 6, 2020 somehow. Maybe wear horns, you know.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Mexico seems to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 5 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 5 votes for vice president. Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New York seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 28 votes for president. Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 28 votes for vice president.
Oh, wrong button, sorry.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Carolina seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 16 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 16 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Dakota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
You ready?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Ohio seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 17 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 17 votes for Vice President.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Oklahoma seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 7 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 7 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Oregon seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 8 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 8 votes for vice president.
Lindsay, he's talking to Bill Cassidy, who's a never Trump senator from Louisiana.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 19 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 19 votes for vice president.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Just so you know, back on, what's his name? Cassidy, he won with Donald Trump's help,
Madam
and then
President,
voted to
the certificate of the electoral
kick him
vote
out of the
state
office.
of Rhode Island seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of South Carolina seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 9 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 9 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of South Dakota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Tennessee seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
By the way, has anyone seen John Fetterman? Is he in his hoodie, or did he wear a tie today?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Texas seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 40 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 40 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Utah seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance from the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Vermont seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
I think that's it for Kamala, right? Or is oh no, Washington State. Never mind. She got Washington, I think.
Madam President,
Yeah.
the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Virginia
Yeah.
seems to be regular in form and authentic.
She got
and it
Virginia
appears
too,
there
right?
from that Kamala
Yeah.
Harris of the state of
I
California
forgot about Virginia.
received 13 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 13 votes for vice president.
All right, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming. So this will be her last one. Washington.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Washington seems irregular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala Harris of the state of California received 12 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 12 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of West Virginia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the great state of Wisconsin seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 10 votes for vice president.
All right, here's where it could get dicey.
Madam President, the certificate of the
See what happens.
electoral vote of the state of Wyoming seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
There you go. All right, so that's everybody. That's all fitty. Here we go.
Members of Congress, the certificates having been read, the tellers will ascertain and deliver the result to the President of the Senate.
It's 312 to 226, lady, just FYI.
The undersigned, Deb Fisher and Amy Klobuchar, tellers on the part of the Senate, and Brian Steele and Joseph Morelli, tellers on the part of the House of Representatives, report the following as the result of the ascertainment and counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President of the United States for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2025.
The state of the vote for the President of the United States, as delivered to the President of the Senate, is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538.
Here it comes.
Within that whole number, the majority is 270.
Here it comes.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris.
Oh, she jumped right into it. Oh, she didn't want anyone to applaud. Yeah. She should have known.
Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Let's see if she gavels them in back to order. Props not. Oh, she's smirking.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes.
There he goes. Bill Cassidy has a yellow iPhone cover. Another reason not to like him.
Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota has received 226 votes.
They're not that enthusiastic. They're not really excited by that.
This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January 2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much.
There you go. So she did it. She did it. There's your vice president-elect officially. Oh, he's getting a fist bump. Another reason not to like Bill Cassidy. So many reasons not to like Bill Cassidy. And she did it. She read the votes, and she didn't appear to mess anything up. She didn't leave time for everyone to applaud for Donald Trump, but that's okay. And I believe...
The purpose of the joint Senate having been concluded pursuant to Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2, the 119th Congress, the chair declares this joint session dissolved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what I was going to say, I believe that's her last official act. As that's it, she's done. No more Kamala Harris in the Senate. No more Kamala Harris really in American politics. I mean, unless, God forbid, she has to do something in the next 14 days. So there you go. That was exciting. We got through it all. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for bearing with my voice. I hope it didn't turn too many people off. This was fun. Let's do it all again in 4 years. Maybe it'll be J.D. Vance getting top billing back. You never know what's going to happen. Hopefully I'll be there in the chamber. Thanks to Cat Turd and his endorsement of my congressional race here in a couple years. Anyway, listen, I'm going to go back to bed. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Here, I'll let you watch. You guys can watch a little bit more of the meandering around. Hang on, where is it? Yeah, I'll put it back on for you guys to watch while I go. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.